What's up, YouTubers? Stone Paxton University, where we do and talk about all things music related. In this video, I wanted to talk about, I've had a lot of people hit me up asking questions about radio promotions, how to promote your record to radio, and what they should do as far as, you know, making the proper moves with radio promotions, or if they should even spend the money on doing radio. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about my experience with radio and the do's and don'ts of radio, and what you're going to get and what to expect from using physical radio, because there's a difference between physical radio and digital radio, and what's going to work for you as an artist and what's working right now from my experience, where I put a lot of money, the places I've dished a lot of money into as far as radio is concerned, and what I wouldn't do anymore with radio, where I would spend my money and where I wouldn't spend my money anymore. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. Nicole Tate and her producer, Nate, if I'm wrong, forgive me, but Nicole Tate asked me to do a video about radio. She said, when you have time, can you speak on your experiences with radio play sites that want pay for play and charting? Your thoughts. I always appreciate your time. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, so Nicole, this radio thing is such a complicated subject. Nicole and Nate, here's the thing. Everybody wants to be on radio. Every artist, who doesn't want radio? You know what I mean? And radio can truly dictate the difference between selling 10 albums and selling hundreds of thousands of records, you know what I mean? But in order to understand how this radio thing works, you have to really understand the full logistics of radio. And I mean, you can go all the way back to the history of how it works. So I'll try to do all this and truncate it to a smaller version of radio and how it works. First of all, for those that don't know, that the FCC passed a law stating that radio stations, it's against the law for artists to have to pay for radio play. Okay, let's start there. Back in the 50s and 60s, they used to give the radio DJs paper bags. Okay, I have to go through a little bit of the past history to make you understand where radio is now. So it was a pay for play, and what happened? The major labels did that to kind of corner their competition. You understand what I'm saying? So the more people that were actually paying for radio, the less attention the independent labels would get, or the person that wasn't paying would get. Therefore, putting a cap on their competition. This is how all this started. This started back in the 50s, you know, with a lot of the older labels, you know, like a lot of labels out of Chicago. A lot of the old soul R&B labels were doing that. A lot of the, you know, labels like that back in the day were doing it. I'm not going to say any particular labels' names, but they were doing it. This was like a real big deal. The problem with that was it started a popcorn effect, where just everybody that had budgets and money started doing it. And of course you had the major labels who had investors, who had the proper funding, where they could drop, you know, $1 million on a campaign, 100,000 on a campaign, you know, 2 million on a radio campaign. Although back then they weren't spending that much money on radio campaigns, but they were still spending a reasonable amount of money for radio, okay? So let's speed forward to the future, to the 80s and 90s. That became even that much more relevant. I mean, radio was, I mean, you know, you got to understand, radio campaigns go anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. Nowadays they have smaller campaigns, 2-week campaigns. Those are usually the digital radio campaigns. But the real big physical radio campaigns, like you want, like the you know, like your power station in your city, the 92.5s or the 98.5s or whatever the main pop station in your town is, those stations for radio play, you would, I mean, you know, you got to remember, most of the radio is controlled by Clear Channel and Radio 1. They dominate the corporate side of radio. So when you're talking radio, you're no longer talking, now it's a flip side of the coin. They don't tell you you got to pay to play this record on the radio because they know that there's a thin line between telling a person that and, you know, putting themselves in a position to where, oh, they told me that it's going to cost me $1 million for radio play. It's against the law for them to solicit money in the form of promising radio play. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but yeah. So in other words, the new way they did it was to say, well, this is radio advertisement. You're paying for advertisement costs here at our station. And then now we fast forward to now where you have internet radio where you have companies that are saying, oh, I'll get you 300 spins for this much, or I'll give you 2,000 spins for this much in these many weeks. And I mean, you know, it kind of, radio is what it is, man. Like, I'll be honest with you. You know, if you're talking about trying to get radio play on mainstream radio, you're going to be out of a lot of money. And if, you know, if you can't afford it, I mean, I'm going to tell you what I paid. There's times where I paid 10 grand every 8 weeks for radio. You hear what I'm saying? And this, I'm not making this up. 6,000 every 8 weeks, 8,000 every 8 weeks, or 10,000 every 8 weeks. And this comes with, you know, this or that. And then there are no guarantees. Now you have to remember that with radio, there is no guarantee that they are going to play your record. Now, internet radio, they can guarantee you play. But the physical radio stations, they can't really guarantee you the number of spins you want. They might play it 1 or 2 times, and then they'll, you know, they go off if people like it. You know, if it's not the most popular music, if you're not a popular artist, then you probably only get spin a few times, and then you probably won't get spin anymore. Unless you just have this massive, crazy budget where you can compete with the major artists and it doesn't matter, then yeah, you know, eventually, you know, you'll possibly get that spin, and then you will be able to stay in regular rotation. Some stations do the pump it or dump it, or hit it or quit it. I mean, stupid stuff like that, you know, the things that they think will work for bringing in new product or new artists. To me, that's just a way to say, you pay your money, but if you pay me 6,000, but if the listeners say they don't like your record, hey man, I did what I can do. And to me, that's not acceptable. If you're spending $6,000 and $8,000 on radio, there should be some sort of guarantee. You understand what I'm saying, where you're getting radio play. So this is why you see digital radio has taken off so big, because digital radio will play your music, I mean, and you'll get some spins. But what's the downfall of digital? Physical radio, digital radio. Digital radio is still here. You hear what I'm saying? It's still here. Unless you're dealing with Sirius XFM, stations like that, then you're going to see that when you get a radio spin, you're going to notice that it actually calculates to dollars and cents. Okay, so don't be confused with digital radio. Radio altogether is just a real confusing subject for most artists. Don't think that you're going to get radio play on the digital radio and then blow up. It doesn't work like that with digital radio, unfortunately. Not right now, it doesn't. Maybe in the future. You know, I did digital radio. One thing about me is I've had every radio situation, so I can tell you what works and what doesn't. The thing about digital radio is I've noticed when I did digital radio, it didn't turn into dollars for me. Like, people weren't running from digital radio to buy my single or my album. Now, I'm going to tell you a way in a system that does work, that's guaranteed, and this is in my book that's coming out too. I'll talk about this. But digital radio, I've noticed out of all the digital radio I've done, none of that digital radio and even some physical, because you can get physical radio play, and if it's not the proper market and not the proper radio format you're playing on, it's still like not having play at all, because the listeners are not the listeners that support that sort of music. You know what I mean? And they're not going to go and buy your record. They're not going to go and support, because they're not even paying attention. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to know your demographics so that you understand where your music should go and the proper station it should go to, and that kind of station that plays your kind of music, so that you increase your chances at getting a listener to go to your iTunes or you know, your Tidal or anywhere else and buy and support your record. I really don't care much about digital radio. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, it hasn't turned to dollars for me. A better way to do radio, if you're gonna decide to spend that kind of money on radio, you just have tons of money to spend and you just want to spend it on radio, chasing physical radio, go for it. But trust and believe me, you're going to be out of money. There's a few things that radio go by, and you have to understand, in every business there's a protocol of understanding. Let me just say it that way. Okay, so getting in the music industry takes relationships. So you can be in your own industry, you can be in the music industry as a local artist, a regional artist, or national. But to be in the major industry and be respected amongst the naysayers and the peers in the music industry, it takes a certain relationship with the right people. Radio is the same way. You can go spend $1 million in radio and still nothing happen. And this is a fact. And if you don't believe me, talk to anybody in radio and they'll tell you exactly what I'm saying. Radio, too, is a combination of relationships, too. And it's also a combination of building the record. See, the way you build a record on regular physical radio is you build a story. It's called building a story. That's what it's called in radio. So you want that record to grow legs. So one station starts playing. You might have a smaller local station that's playing the record, or in a smaller market, and they've been spinning it. And you take that record and you take that report to another station, and then you get another station that might jump on board based on your budget or based on, we just love the record. You know what I mean? And then they'll take the record and they'll spin the record. So every time you get a new station that jumps on the record, you're building a story. This is really how it goes in radio. You're building a story, okay? So let me not confuse you, but I'm kind of going backwards. I should have said this in the beginning, but it's okay. Just follow me. You build a story, and you take that story to the next station. These stations look at that story. They see that the record is being spun in maybe 4 major markets, and they go, oh, wow, okay, you're getting spins in Atlanta, New York, LA, on a major station. Okay, cool. We'll take the record, you know. And whatever's worked out with the people that go out and promote the record, there's people that actually go out and plug the record. The pluggers that go and plug the records at the stations, like traditionally back in the day. You had a guy who would go around the country, and his job was to take the record into the radio jock and get him to spin the record. So you still have those relationships where you have radio promoters who go out and get the record spin. Okay, those people that you're paying are building they have a relationship with radio, but they're building the story for your record. And believe me, sometimes it might take, that's why I said you got to have money to do this. If you're really going to do it, if you want to blow up on a major scale with radio, you got to have a serious budget, you know. But I don't want to discourage you, because there's a way to do that same thing without having a whole bunch of money. Okay, so the traditional way is to spend a whole bunch of money, and you work this record for an 8-9 month period, and you're going to start seeing action, because you keep building stations, and you're still paying every 4 weeks to keep the record going, you know what I mean? And eventually you're hoping and praying that this record grows legs and some wings, and it takes off. But it also starts with every station that's playing it, it adds to your story. To take to the next station that looks at that story and goes, we want to jump on this record, you know. So I'm going to give you a few ways to really build a record without having to spend all of your money. Because I know you guys work hard. As an independent artist, it's not easy. You have to it's about making the right moves and not making the wrong moves. Because every move can cost you. You can spend $5 or $10 grand, and that's a lot of money for a lot of people. And it might take you another year or two to come up with that kind of money. So be smart about how you spend your money. Be smart, think it over and over again before you spend it. Ask questions, have them give you examples of the records that they've broken. If you're going to spend this kind of money with people, have them show you what records they've gotten placed on radio. Have them send you references of other companies that they've helped get their records on physical radio or digital or, you know, Sirius XFM. You want to know where their records have been spent before you spend that sort of money. I mean, even if you're spending $400, the same thing. You know, you just want to know the history of what these people can do before you just spend your money. There's just a lot of people out here taking money for radio on people, and people are not getting no results. And some people are not even seeing where their record got any spins at all. So I'm going to show you a better system. There's a few ways that you can break your record with consistency and building the record up from taking the record to record pools. Don't forget, record pools still exist, okay? And DJs and local clubs exist. You know, build relationships with local DJs and the clubs where you can pay them a few little dollars. I mean, I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying when you're building relationships with people, it's a combination of them believing in you, and if they don't know who you are, I mean, it's been times I went to DJs and slid them $25 and said, hey man, you know, spend this on the weekend in the club. Every weekend, you know, and I might stop in the club every weekend and break them $25 off just to keep it going. Because when people are on the floor dancing, people are going to go to the DJ and ask them, well, who is that? You understand what I'm saying? So that same concept, you have more control, because your relationship with that DJ who might work in one of the hottest clubs is immediate. You understand what I'm saying? That's immediate. So you're right there with the DJ. So you can go to the DJ and say, hey man, look, can you support this record? Can you, here you go. I'm not asking for anything free. I mean, we do have to pay our dues in this business, so we don't want anybody to do anything free, but at the same time, we also want to know that they appreciate our music to some degree, and if they don't, then, you know, they'll let you know, well, I don't like the record, or it sucks. You understand what I'm saying? But if you're going to spend the money, spend it smart. Start with the DJs or the local record pool. Find out who the record pool, head of record pool in that city is. There's always one guy in every city that's over the record pool that get the records, and he services all the DJs typically in that city, in the record pool system, okay? Do not contact these people unless you're completely ready, okay? Don't contact them with no demos. Contact them when you're ready, and that's another situation. Everybody wants to be on radio, but 90% of most people are not even ready to go. Have your product ready, have the single already out, and have a little budget together where you talk to them, say, I'll see you, I'd like to build a relationship, can you listen to this record, tell me if you like it, and if you like it, would you be willing to spend it? And I have a little budget where I can, come every weekend and give you a few dollars just to, keep the record hot. Because people in that club, if that's the hottest club, people are going to hear that record and they're going to wonder who it is, and they're going to pick up their phone and Google you. That's direct marketing. You understand what I'm saying? That's taking it directly to the consumers. Then you control what you want to spend, as opposed to somebody telling you this radio campaign, is 800 or 4,000 or 10,000, and then you got to come up with that money, and you might not have that kind of money. So you have to think smart about radio. Another thing with radio is a better way to break your record is these days you have the digital radio truly competing with the physical. You really don't need physical radio anymore. Follow me on this one. You have Apple Radio now, you have Tidal, you have Spotify, you have 8 or 9 different streaming radio. And also YouTube is considered streaming radio, one of the main ones too, okay? So the right way to do it is when you have an aggregator who has distributed your record and it's through YouTube. It counts. It's better to do it that way, because as your numbers are going up, they're actually being accounted for. You can actually chart on Billboard through Spotify now. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is the same money you would spend on a $400 and $800 digital radio campaign, your record is already on radio. It's on streaming. Spotify, Apple, Tidal, YouTube streaming, it's there. So why do you have to go spend money on trying to get digital radio? What you do is you take Spotify, that same money you're going to spend, you take out advertisement ads, and you direct your consumers directly over to your Spotify, right to your station, where people are going to follow you. They're going to spin your music. So now, if I told you spend $800 sending your money to somebody to say they're going to play it on their station, and they're going to tell you everybody in the world is going to hear your record on their digital station. Or would you rather take that same money, take out advertisement on Spotify, take out advertisement on YouTube and Facebook, and direct your customers directly to your link on Spotify? Now you're bringing your consumers directly to you to become your fan, as opposed to hoping these people are going to become your fans because you're paying for this radio campaign. The game is so different right now. You can truly control your direction as an artist right now more than ever. Think smart. Think before you make your moves. You understand what I'm saying? It's easy to spend money, but it's hard to get money. So think before you spend the money, all right? Unless you have an unlimited amount of money, and even if you have an unlimited amount of money, it's still smart to think before you make your moves. So what's my point today? And what's my advice to everybody that's watching this? Put your money into advertising your Spotify link, your iTunes link, your Tidal link, wherever your music is. Invest your money in driving people to Spotify, because the more followers you get on Spotify and the more people share your Spotify playlist and the more spins you get in streaming on Spotify, that is digital radio. Okay, the RIAA recognizes that. The Grammy Association recognizes that. All right, I'm a member of the Grammy Association, and I'm also a member of the RIAA. Okay, they recognize Spotify officially, the streaming. So now, what does that mean? That means if you move up in streaming and you're getting a lot of spins, you can end up on Billboard without even having to be on your local major radio station. So why put so much money into digital promotions when you can put it in digital radio promotions, when you can put it into advertising and targeting your market and bringing them directly to your Spotify? Do you understand? These are the things that I talk about in my book, Stone Paxton University, where we do and talk all things music. Catch me on my next video. Peace and love to all of you, Stone Paxton University. And I'm out.